Hello again. Today we're going to be flushing the heater core since winter is coming up. The heater core is essentially a small radiator that is located behind the firewall and in the main cabin. The heat is generated from the cooling system, and this is why it takes a little while for your heater to start working when you start your car. The AC system will either bring in air from the outside or from the cabin and run it through the condenser to make it cold. It can then go through separate doors to go to the windshield or your face or to your feet. If you want warm air, then a door opens to the heater core and the air is warmed and then rejoins to continue on. Therefore, if you're not getting hot air, it's likely a problem with the heater core or the blend door is stuck closed. Because there's a blend door for the passenger and for the driver, if you have only one side without heat, it's likely the blend door, whereas if both sides don't have heat, you likely have a clogged heater core. Today we will be flushing the heater core. What you'll need is around 25 feet of 3/4 inch internal diameter tubing, a pump of some kind. I'm going to use a submersible utility pump, 3/4 inch barb to 3/4 inch female adapter, or whatever you need to connect the hose to the pump, some coolant. I would get at least 2 gallons, 2 bottles of radiator flush, some line clamps, some hose clamps, and 2 buckets. Everything I used will be listed in the description. Alright, now let's get started. With a cold engine, look under the hood and you should see the 2 heater hoses running into the firewall. Take your line clamps and clamp these 2 hoses so you don't lose a ton of coolant. Take the lines off by depressing a button on both sides and then pulling directly out, and they should come off. Once they're off, just hang them up out of the way. Here's 25 feet total of hose. I cut them into about 2 10-foot portions and 1 5-foot portion. Take one of the hose clamps and put it over the hose, and then try to snake it on over the heater core outlet, like so. You'll need to kind of reach over the front of the engine so that you can tighten the hose clamp down, but it does need to be pretty tight, otherwise you'll get some leaking. And do that for both hoses. Now here's the 3 baths that we're going to do. First we're going to do a water bath, follow that up with a coolant plus coolant flush bath, and finally just coolant. So take your radiator flush, and this is concentrated, but I'm actually going to put 2 of these in the bucket so that it's extra concentrated. Now place the pump in the water and make sure that the adapter is attached. Now you can just put both of the ends of the tube in the bucket. I'm going to clamp them on so they don't go anywhere, but one of the ends should attach onto the pump and onto the barbed connector. And once you have it all situated, you can plug it in and make sure that everything is pumping the way it should and that there's no leaks at the firewall. As you can see, it looks like it's pumping just fine. I have the return hose sticking into the bucket and the outlet hose is pumping. Now when you look at the firewall, hopefully there will be no leaks. I have done this before where there was a leak because the hose clamps weren't tight enough. If that's the case, just tighten them up a little bit. After about 10 to 15 minutes, consider unplugging the pump and swapping the hoses. This way the fluid will go in a reverse direction and any particulates that are kind of stuck in one direction might come out the other direction. So do that and then run it for another 15 minutes. You can see here that the fluid is already looking a little bit suspicious, which is good. So we're getting something out. After about 15 minutes in the reverse direction, now we can switch over to the radiator cleaner. And so just put the pump in the other container and move the water out of the way and then restart the pump. And now we're running radiator cleaner exclusively through the heater core. Remember to run this in the forward direction for about 15 minutes and then switch to the reverse direction for another 15 minutes, just like you did with the water. Here you can see everything's flowing nicely, nothing's leaking, and you can look at the water and it's looking pretty dirty, which is good. We're getting something out already. After you run the radiator cleaner for a little bit, I like to wash out the heater core with just plain water to avoid leaving any of the cleaner in there for, months and months. And so I'll just clean it out with plain water while I prepare the normal coolant. The normal coolant is really just to replace all the volume in the heater core with just plain coolant and no radiator cleaner and no water. It's really just to fill it back up. So finally, put the pump in the plain coolant and let it run briefly. And this is not really to clean, it's really just to fill it back up with coolant, so you don't need to wait too long with this one. Once you have plain coolant in the lines and in the heater core, you can unplug the two hoses that you attached and just pull them off. You might spill a little bit of coolant here. Once they're out of the way, you can reattach the original heater hoses and then remove the line clamps. And that's pretty much it. You're done. And that's it. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I make Range Rover Sport and Jaguar videos as issues pop up on my cars, so don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss any simple fixes that hopefully will save you thousands over taking it to a dealer. Thank you and have a good one.